Hey y'all, it's Kristen. Just wanted to cover a few things with you about traveling with your firearm. And I don't mean in your car, as that's a whole nother thing, but this was specifically for traveling via a plane. A lot of people have asked me, oh my gosh, you fly with your gun? Well, yeah, but it's not on my person because that's like illegal. So there's a few things I want to cover. First, you have to declare your firearm. What does that mean? Basically, when you go to the check-in counter that is on this side of TSA, and you usually drop your regular bag, you're going to have a bag with a gun in it, a gun case in it. And so there's a few things on that. I'll go over a couple of the cases, a couple of the extra things, but first you're just going to say, I have a firearm I need to declare. They're like, okay. You're going to put your bag up on the little check-in counter thing. You're going to open it up. You're going to have another case in there which has your gun in it and it's locked. Cover that in a second. And then they're going to get out a little piece of paper. They're going to put where you're flying to, blah, blah, blah. There's a back part of the card that you need to sign. I would suggest at least reading it the first time so that you know what it says. And then the rest of it, it's status quo. Pretty much every airline that I have is the same piece of paper. They're going to tape it or stick it to the top of your case. You're going to close it up and there's going to be a variety of things that happen. One, they may just take it back and they said, okay, thank you, have a great day. They're going to run it through an x-ray machine. When they see the gun, which they will, they'll probably open up your bag. They're going to see the cards like, okay, this person did what they're supposed to do. When you sign that card states that you know what you're allowed to do, that you're not, the gun is not loaded, all that other stuff. Some places will have you take it to a station that they actually want you to open your firearm case, which is probably the most unsafe thing that you can do legally in a airport. And you're going to show them that there's no ammunition loaded in your firearm. And then there's other ones that will actually have you take it to their x-ray machine. You're going to wait right there. They're going to load it through the x-ray machine. They're going to say, all right, you're good to go. And then you're off on your merry way. Sometimes on the other end, you may just see it in baggage carousel. And then sometimes it'll be flagged that you actually have to pick it up in the baggage area, but from a gate attendant, show them your driver's license. So that's usually that. A few things to note. Gun cases. Lock it. Do not use a TSA lock. You keep the keys on your person. I have a few examples. So I have a small case that I just got with a new slide, and it has, as you can see, two little locks right here. I closed the case and now I have two locks. Whoops. Well, I'll show you another one. So with these two locks, you can't pry it open with your locks on it. I have a larger one, so if I want to carry two firearms, notice the lock holes are on the outside. You don't want a lock hole where it's more in the center, because when it's locked, you can technically open these with the gun lock if it's not in the open part, and you might be able to pry it open if it only has one entry point. So that's kind of what they're looking for, is that it's locked when they visually look at it in your case. Maybe somebody does. So I do have an example of one you don't want to use, which is one I was just talking about. Notice there is only one lock. So I could lock this. Somebody else could still open this part of it, and then they could try to pry it open with the lock still on there. They probably can get their fingers in there. Won't really feel good and probably not able to get much, but the whole point is that you're not supposed to be able to get to it. What else can you put in there? First of all, can't be loaded. You can't have your magazine with bullets in them. They tell you that they need to be in a manufacturer's container. So, for example, you have your box of ammo that you guys might buy. That's one. Then you might have, if you're a reloader, such as myself, you might have one of those cases, and then you'll put them in there. I would suggest putting a piece of tape over, because this doesn't click or close or anything. I've also, because I bought this ammo before, I have a whole bunch of these little containers. I will also tape it shut, because that's not it. What they do not want to see is, one, is in your magazine, and two, they're not going to want to see it loose in a baggie or something. So loose in a baggie is not a manufacturer's container. They don't know that you reload or not. They don't need to know that. But if it's in something like one of these and it's sealed, contained, zippered, whatever, and they say, oh, it's not a manufacturer's, you're like, I reload. It's in my manufacturer's container. So you're good there. I've never had anybody ask me on that. The other thing is, do not carry your magazines, or even empty. Don't carry your magazines, your holsters, any paraphernalia that you shoot with. Do not carry it on the plane with you. Just put it all in the same bag. It does not need to be in the case. You can put your empty magazines in the case. You can put your boxed ammunition in the case if you want. Sometimes when I'm just carrying for personal protection, not for a shooting competition, I pretty much load up everything in my gun case, or I'll use a smaller gun case and then I just put it in like a backpack or something. So I usually keep all of that stuff together. You will get some cases. You saw a couple of them. Sometimes when you buy, Glock, you have a case like this. Note that it does not have any locking thing, so I would not suggest using something like this. However, a lot of manufacturers, like this was a Smith & Wesson, they've actually have better ones now that have the 2 locks on it. And then again, pretty much this was Kimber. So various different cases that you buy your firearms in, they will have those 2 holes in them. One thing to note is I would suggest taking that little case in with you to Home Depot or wherever you buy your locks, because you might have a lock that you think, this is perfect, it's heavy duty. Well, when you get it in there, if you notice, well, you can't really, there's not a lot of room, and that is not going to close. And if it does, it might be very difficult, and you don't want to have troubles. So you're going to want to go in and make sure that you have a lock that has a long enough, whatever this thing is called, it's long enough to where it still can lock. But you also want to make sure, and I did double check, that this isn't too long. So this is long enough for some of my thicker ones, but you also want to make sure it's not too long, because then they might still be able to pry it open. This one's a little bit different because you can't, like this, when you actually have to pull this open in order to move it, whereas the other ones, because you can't really pry it here, the other ones where it's not, let's say this did have 2 holes, I could put this in here, you still can unlock this part and start prying some of it open. So again, practice it, try it, and make sure you keep your keys on your person. I think that's it. But yeah, so basically, depending on what airline you go with, I would suggest going to their website. So I fly Southwest a lot. Go to their website, look for their rules on guns. Just do a search for firearm, and it'll tell you their rules. Ammunition. And then I would go to TSA and I would look at their rules. And just to make peace of mind for you, ammunition, they technically say that you're not supposed to have more than 11 pounds of ammunition. Well, I might have had more than 11 pounds once or twice when I shoot USPSA. So if you have 2 bags, you can put, half in one, half in the other. You're like, that's not my bag or whatever. I've never had anybody, well, let me rephrase. I've had people ask and I'm like, oh, it's within the limits. Or, yes, I have ammunition. It's X amount of rounds. They're not going to know the freaking difference because they don't know 147 grain from 115 grain. You might not either, and that's okay. But different powder weights, different bullet weights can make different weights. So if I take 100 rounds of 115 versus 100 rounds of 147, they are not going to weigh the same. So just some things to consider. Just do your research, learn, and then take stuff like this, these videos, and kind of test it out and listen to other people and see what their experiences are. I've had some really stupid ass questions asked from gate attendants because they are not firearms instructors. They are not well versed in firearms. They just know these are the questions you're supposed to ask. I've had a guy in Fresno, California, ask me to open up my case, and I said, are you sure you want me to open my firearm case? It's pointed towards you, because I know it's not going to be pointed towards me when I open it. And he said, yep. So I open it up. Now, mind you, it is not in slide lock. It is battery forward. And he goes, okay. And I'm thinking, what did you learn from this? I could have had one in the barrel. I could had a magazine in there, and I might have done that before where it's easier to store a magazine in there, but it's empty. So there's lots of things. They never touched them. Nobody's ever touched it, but it's like, okay. And you're like, and what was the value of that other than to create an unsafe action by opening a gun case? And because not everybody's like me, maybe they don't know what they're doing. Maybe they thought they did the right thing. Heck, I had one person who had a gun case like this, and they had a one of those cable locks that you get with your firearm. You get the cable locks. He had it in through here, and I'm like, you know, unless that thing's wrapped really tightly, you can open that thing. So anyway, so sorry this is super long, but hopefully it was beneficial. How to carry with your firearm. Any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Drop them in the comments. I'll post this on YouTube. Follow, like, share, subscribe, WTFKristen.com. Thanks and have a great day and safe traveling.